Welcome back to the Uncanny Valley podcast. Have you ever truly considered that the most profound threats to our understanding, perhaps even to our very existence, might not be out in the open? That maybe they're tucked away, forgotten, just waiting for the wrong hand to stumble upon them? We're talking about secrets well, alien. They don't just challenge, but actively seem to unravel everything we think we know about reality. It's a truly unsettling thought, isn't it? That beneath our very feet, or perhaps lurking in plain sight, there are things that appear almost familiar, yet are deeply, disturbingly wrong. They sit firmly in that uncanny valley between the known and the utterly alien. Today we're embarking on a journey into what our sources are calling ARCHINT, or Archeological Intelligence. Now, you might be familiar with more conventional intelligence gathering, like SIGINT signals intelligence, electronic communications, or human intelligence, which relies on human sources. But ARCHINT is, well, it's a category all its own. It's defined as the study of appalling dangers left in hidden places, focusing on older secrets. Secrets that demand those who investigate look into horrors most people would and arguably should instinctively turn away from.
Exactly. It's fundamentally different. Unlike gathering data from radio waves or informants, ARCHINT is about unearthing the deeply buried. And often, these aren't just historical relics in the normal sense. We're talking tangible remnants of sometimes pre-human threats, artifacts from civilizations lost not merely to time, but maybe to realities far stranger than our own.
So it's truly the archaeology of the unnatural, a dedicated discipline for digging up what just doesn't belong.
Precisely. And that's the crux of it.
This isn't just about digging up old bones for a museum display, then.
Not at all. It's about unearthing truth that could fundamentally shift our understanding of the world. Truth that, frankly, often defies scientific explanation or even basic human comprehension. What's particularly striking about the sources we've compiled for today is how these objects, those seemingly disparate in origin and function, they collectively paint a picture of an underlying, deeply unsettling reality. Our exploration today will meticulously trace the unsettling patterns and the profound implications of these unnatural items. We'll be challenging our assumptions about the very fabric of existence at, well, pretty much every turn, looking at how their sheer presence can start to pull apart what we consider normal.
Well, you've certainly piqued my curiosity and probably sent a shiver down my spine already. This sounds less like an archaeological dig and more like a dive into what shouldn't exist. Okay, let's unpack this incredible collection of strange and dangerous items, each with its own chilling story, and discover what makes them so unnervingly uncanny. We're going to start our investigation in ancient Peru with an artifact that embodies a truly ancient horror, the Amulet of the Ayapa. This is a sculpted clay piece dating back to the Chavin civilization, a culture flourishing around 800 BC. Just imagine, over 2.5 millennia ago, something truly unnatural was already being crafted, an object of immense dark power.
Yeah, the amulet came to light in 1935, discovered by Derek Wheeler. He was an anthropology student from the University of Pennsylvania at the time. Wheeler found himself increasingly, almost obsessively, consumed by local stories among the Quechua people. Tales of entities known as the Ayapa, which translates roughly to silent ones.
Silent ones, okay.
These narratives spoke of these beings assisting ancient warrior priests, particularly in the seemingly impossible task of moving immense stones for their monumental stonework. But what was crucial and deeply intriguing to Wheeler, as our sources highlight, was how the local Quechua language and religion made a distinct separation.
A separation? How so?
Well, mythical beasts were one thing, part of their folklore, but the Ayapa were spoken of as real, as living, active entities.
Right, and when local lore distinguishes between mythical creatures and something they insist is real, especially when those real entities are described as silent helters moving megaton blocks of stone, well, that's a huge red flag, isn't it? Something is profoundly out of the ordinary there.
Absolutely. Wheeler was so consumed by his research, he actually abandoned his academic thesis work.
Really? Just walked away?
Yeah, a decision that led to his dismissal from the university in 1933. But his relentless pursuit, his obsession, it ultimately paid off in 1935 when he finally found the amulet. He lived until 1975, but the amulet itself was never recovered after his death.
Never recovered.
Yeah.
So it's just out there.
Seems so. The idea that something potentially so dangerous simply vanished back into the world is, for me, deeply unsettling.
Okay, let's talk about the amulet itself. What did it look like?
It's described as depicting two intertwined figures,
Hmm?
one distinctly human and the other a beast with wings. It's surprisingly small and light, weighs about 153 grams, so less than 6 ounces, and quite fragile.
Fragile.
Yes. Our sources note that if it breaks, all its power is immediately lost, and any link it forges just ceases to exist. Instantly gone.
And no writing on it.
No, none.
Yeah.
Which isn't entirely surprising given that the Chavin civilization didn't possess a true written language as we understand it. This absence of text only amplifies its ancient and enigmatic nature, suggesting a reliance on a deeply ingrained, almost primal form of communication or understanding, maybe telepathic.
Which fits with the Silent One's name.
Exactly. And a key insight from the research is the amulet's primary function. It establishes a direct psychic link between the wearer's mind and an unnatural winged servitor known as an IAPA.
A direct link.
Okay. And each individual amulet is uniquely bound to a single, specific IAPA. If that particular servitor is ever destroyed, the amulet becomes inert, useless. It's believed that many such amulets once existed, which suggests a widespread, ancient, and frankly, deeply disturbing pact between this civilization and these entities.
So it's far more than just a decorative trinket or a cultural relic. It's a direct mental conduit to something truly alien.
Precisely. The IAPA, our sources explain, senses the world through the wearer's own senses and emotions.
Through the wearer. Wow.
Yeah, this is how it can locate the wearer anywhere and effectively target individuals within their life.
Imagine that chilling thought, an unseen, unnatural being experiencing the world, making decisions through your very own perceptions and feelings. That's invasive.
It really is. Placing this in a broader context, what emerges is that this amulet isn't just a tool. It represents a symbiotic relationship, a pact with an entity that demands an immense, horrifying cost. A wearer who is fully aware of this link can command the IAPA to perform a single, brief duty, anything from tearing down a stubborn door to moving an impossibly heavy boulder. Or, even most chillingly, to kill a specific person.
And the command is telepathic.
Yes. It doesn't even need to be verbal. It's sensed directly from the wearer's thoughts and intentions. A silent directive for a silent servitor.
Okay, here it comes. What's the cost you mentioned?
The true horror of this ancient bargain. Each command, each service rendered by the IAPA requires a human sacrifice.
A human sacrifice. Of course it does.
The wearer merely has to indicate a person, maybe just think it strongly enough, and the IAPA is perfectly capable of subduing and devouring its meal. A grisly exchange.
But what if there isn't anyone? Or they don't pick someone?
That's the deadliest catch. If no sacrifice is indicated, or more terrifyingly, if one is simply unavailable, the IAPA will then turn on its master. It attacks and attempts to consume the wearer themselves.
So the very object you thought you controlled becomes the instrument of your own demise. The silent servitor turns predator.
Exactly. This naturally leads us to ask, what kind of civilization would forge such a pact? What were the stakes? What profound needs or desires could have possibly justified such an immense and horrific cost?
The sheer, cold, utilitarian horror of it. The transactional nature of human life for power. That's a deeply unsettling historical insight right there.
And it doesn't end there. The sources describe an even more insidious layer to this.
Oh, how could it get worse?
If the wearer is completely unaware of the link, maybe they found the amulet, inherited it, received it as a gift without explanation, the IAPA doesn't just sit idle.
No.
Instead, it acts upon the wearer's unconscious feelings. It targets those the wearer fears, or individuals who have caused them harm, or even just those they subconsciously believe mean them ill will.
Unbelievable.
It attempts to manifest and consume such a target, approximately every few weeks, maybe 1 to D6 plus 2 weeks. The timing varies.
So you could unwittingly be walking around a conduit for this ancient horror, having people in your life mysteriously disappear or suffer unexplained, gruesome fates, all because of your subconscious anxieties or grudges.
That's the implication. It's a chilling thought that our own unexpressed darkness could be weaponized against those around us without us even knowing.
Okay. This shifts from ancient direct servitude to something far more insidious and biologically alien, as you said. Let's move on before I start analyzing my own dreams too closely. Our next artifact takes us on a jarring leap from ancient Peru to modern-day Nepal, but with a horror that feels even more impossibly alien, what our sources call the blood of the feeder. This story revolves around a simple kukri knife, one of thousands of these distinctive Nepalese blades purchased back in 2012 from the Royal Nepalese Armory. Just one of many.
That's right. This particular knife, however, eventually found its way into the D-stacks of the American Museum of Natural History. The D-stacks, as the sources explain, are a kind of curatorial purgatory, a repository for unconfirmed artifacts and those considered far too sensitive to ever display or sell to the public.
A museum's secret basement, essentially.
Well, pretty much. For a period, an organization known as Delta Green a secretive government agency dedicated to combating supernatural threats, which we might touch on more later, actually utilized these D-stacks to house unnatural artifacts. That practice ceased years ago, apparently, but Delta Green still keeps a watchful eye on them, just in case something slips through.
And it appears, with this kukri, something certainly did.
It seems so. Intriguingly, there are no official records explaining how this specific kukri, out of thousands, ended up in the D-stacks. But it wasn't just casually placed there, it was stored in a rusty, early 20th century milk can.
A milk can?
Yeah, an old milk can, on which someone had painstakingly hand-carved, in clear English, "Do not open, do not touch, ever."
Okay, that's not subtle.
Not at all. The lid was originally sealed with wax, which had long since crumbled away, leaving only a bent nail precariously holding it closed.
To me, that's not just a warning. It's a desperate plea from someone who knew exactly what lay within.
I'd agree. The kukri itself, if you were to look at it, is utterly unremarkable apart from some rust and corrosion. There's an amateurish Hindi inscription, a papu mark, near the handle, suggesting a common craftsman. Nothing special there. But if you carefully remove the handle, you discover a much more elegant hidden inscription, "Thrice Honored Chandra."
Chandra.
Likely a reference to Prime Minister Chandra Shamsherjangba the Rana, who ruled Nepal from 1901 to 1929. So this hints at a deeper, maybe more significant history for this particular blade.
But the real unsettling part isn't the knife itself, is it? It's the stain.
Exactly, the stain on its blade. At first glance, it looks like dried blood, but then you notice something profoundly wrong. Its bright crimson has never dulled, and possesses an uncharacteristic, almost vinyl-like sheen. It's too perfect, too vibrant to be mere dried blood. It simply shouldn't be.
And cleaning it.
Impossible. A key insight from the research is that this unnervingly vivid stain cannot be removed by any cleaning liquid. Not water, not soap, not industrial solvents. It adheres with an absolute unnatural permanence. While flecks can be carefully picked off for study, any attempt to comprehend its properties through pure intellectual understanding, through focused contemplation of its nature, well, it's described as blasting the mind, causing immediate and severe mental trauma.
Just thinking about it is dangerous.
Apparently so. This substance is, quite aptly, called the blood of the feeder. Under a microscope, its cells fail to resemble the shape of anything in the animal kingdom. They possess no discernible biological structure familiar to us.
Nothing we recognize at all.
Nothing. And when this substance is introduced to the presence of any living cells, it revives, becomes active. It then behaves as an absolute solvent, enveloping and consuming foreign cells absolutely and indiscriminately, leaving nothing but itself.
An absolute solvent.
Our sources offer a chilling illustration. If a single cell from the stain were dropped into a vat of blood, by morning the vat would be completely sterile, save that one strange cell taken from the kukri.
Sterilizing an entire vat with a single cell.
The very discovery of this property, this biological impossibility, is described as causing profound psychological shock, a Su-1 loss, to any observer.
And it gets even more bewildering, doesn't it? Pushing the boundaries of what we understand about the physical world.
It does. If you attempt to study the stain with powerful electron microscopes, it bafflingly appears two-dimensional.
Two-dimensional? How?
We don't know. It's impossible to construct a 3D model. The instruments simply error out, unable to process its impossible geometry. This fundamentally defies known physics. It strongly suggests an origin completely outside our current understanding of matter, perhaps even outside our dimension.
Which naturally leads us to ask, what kind of life, what kind of being could exist across dimensions, capable of such a fundamental reordering of physical properties at a microscopic level?
The implications are truly staggering. Again, realizing this causes further profound psychological disorientation, another O1 loss, just by grappling with the sheer impossibility of what you're observing.
Okay, so what happens if this blood of the feeder touches a living creature? A person.
It's not good.
Yeah.
It doesn't just stick to the surface. It disappears entirely into the host, consuming from the inside out at a terrifying rate. 1d6 damage per hour, the sources say.
From the inside out.
Yes.
Yeah.
The victim literally begins to hollow out. It starts with rapid blood loss, then soft tissues and organs, and eventually even bone just deteriorates. What's ultimately left, our sources chillingly describe, is an empty skin sac that eventually implodes upon itself.
Implodes. The sand loss for witnessing that is 11d6. I can see why.
In this infestation, this absorption, it's described as happening in milliseconds, regardless of distance.
Milliseconds. Regardless of distance. How?
If, for instance, a lab technician were to accidentally prick a glove contaminated with a tiny, almost invisible sample, the rest of the stain, no matter where it was back on the knife in its container, maybe could fly off the knife. through intervening walls, directly to that pinprick.
It seeks it out. Through walls. That's not biology, that's something else. Or one, a sand loss.
The speed and an absolute inevitability of it are profoundly unsettling, hinking at a form of intelligence or directed energy that defies our understanding.
And the macabre consequences don't end with the death of the victim, do they?
No. Our sources indicate that any radio equipment near a feeding stain malfunctions for approximately a week. It starts emitting electronic voice phenomena, EVPs, that manifest as agonized screams.
Screams. From where? From who? Another O1 SEM.
It's unclear how anyone could survive the process of feeding the blood, or how they might communicate from wherever they end up. But those screams eventually fade to static.
It's more than just a biological anomaly. It truly operates like a liquid black hole, consuming life and leaving behind only its own incomprehensible form and a lingering echo of suffering.
Placing this in a broader context, what emerges is that this isn't just a biological anomaly or a strange organism. It feels more like a cosmic force contained in miniature, a fragment of something vast and utterly alien. After consuming roughly 250,000 calories, the caloric equivalent of approximately 3 adult humans or maybe a large horse, the skein actually begins to ambulate.
It moves. Huh.
It doesn't crawl or walk. It floats and ripples across surfaces like a glitching texture in a video game.
Like a graphical glitch, but real. 11D4, sand loss.
Exactly. A visual phenomenon that profoundly disturbs the human mind. Once it's ambulatory, this blood of the feeder becomes an unstoppable force. It can slip through any crack, grind through any barrier. Humanity, our sources admit, has yet to discover materials hard enough to contain it.
Unstoppable. And where does it go?
It has a clear, singular destination. It makes a direct line, somehow navigating, to the Karakoram Mountains in Central Asia. Heading back to its creator, a creature described as sleeping in his hidden temple deep within a mountain there.
The idea of something so unstoppable with such a clear alien purpose tracking across continents, that's profoundly unnerving.
Okay.
From an uncontainable biological horror, we now shift to an artifact that offers immense power but at a terrible existential cost. Our next artifact is known as the Brixton Shard. It first surfaced in our records in a truly horrific way back in 1971. It was wielded by a man who became notoriously known as Vincent de Very, the Brixton Impaler. He conducted a series of brutal attacks where 7 people were stabbed and 3 died, including a child. Derry himself met a gruesome end 13 months later after being thrown in front of a train. Grim stuff.
Very grim. The shard itself is described as a horn of unknown origin with an odd metallic sheen. It measures 28 centimeters long, weighs about 680 grams. At one point, de Very had amateurishly fitted it with a bicycle handle, turning it into a makeshift but terrifying weapon.
A horn, like from an animal.
Initially, investigators theorized it might be a rhinoceros horn, but zoological examination quickly and unequivocally ruled that out. It was an animal.
So unknown origin. And what makes this even more unsettling?
In 1982, it inexplicably vanished from official custody, just disappeared from the evidence locker, and it hasn't been seen since.
A murder weapon of unnatural origin simply gone. That's not comforting.
Not at all. So let's unpack this and get to its true nature, because the reality is far more disturbing than just some weird horn. Our sources reveal its origin is, well, cosmic horror level. This shard is actually a spine.
A spine.
Yes, one that was broken from the back of a great old one named Glacki.
Glacki, right, one of the big incomprehensible cosmic entities, whose existence drives people mad.
That's the one. This particular event, the breaking of the spine, apparently occurred during a summer worship ritual in 1895 at Brichester Lake in England's Severn Valley, a known hotspot for unnatural activity. The shard was subsequently stolen in 1906 by a former cult member named Ronald Arnheim. He then fled with his family, desperately pursued by Glacki's remaining worshippers.
So Arnheim gets away with a piece of a god, basically. What did he do with it?
Arnheim, after acquiring the shard, figured out how to activate its otherworldly chemistry. This allowed him to heal from injuries with unnatural speed, gain superhuman vigor, and most shockingly, to delay aging.
Delay aging. How effectively?
Very. This man, Ronald Arnheim, lived to be 109 years old, dying in 1965, thanks solely to this artifact.
Wow.
He then passed its dark secrets to his nephew, Ulrich de Very, who in turn passed them to his son, Vincent de Very, the Brixton Impaler.
So this wasn't just a weapon. It was a dark generational secret of unnatural power, passed down through a lineage that ended in murder.
Precisely. A key insight from the research outlines the grim mechanics of this power transfer. When this shard is embedded in a living human, who then dies specifically, stabbed with it, it effectively feeds from that death. It gains hit points equal to the killing blow damage, and also acquires a measure of otherworldly power, called POW, for 3 days.
It feeds on death. Okay, and then?
It can then be stabbed into a new operator. This inflicts significant damage on them, a wound, but in exchange, it transfers all those stored hit points and OD6 of that POW. This process can dramatically increase an operator's health and power, potentially up to double their normal maximum, making them incredibly resilient and potent.
So kill someone with it, stab yourself, get super tough. That's bleak.
It is. The transferred hit points remain until depleted, offering temporary invulnerability. Any transferred otherworldly power, the POW, however, gradually vanishes over time, diminishing at a rate of 1 point per month. But here lies the true allure, the devastating temptation.
There's always a temptation, isn't there?
During any month when an operator possesses excess POW from the shard, they become immune to disease, exhaustion, and crucially, they do not suffer from aging.
No aging, no getting sick. That's powerful.
Extremely. This naturally leads us to ask, how much of your humanity, how much of your conscience would you truly be willing to sacrifice for such a gift of extended, vigorous life? A life free from the common ailments of mortality.
It's the classic Faustian bargain, but with, well, spine magic.
Pretty much. And here's where the truly unsettling and ultimately horrifying consequence manifests. Our sources explain that reaching a breaking point, a term for significant psychological trauma, due to the shard's prolonged use, subjects the operator to what is termed the dream pull of Glaaki.
The dream pull sounds bad.
It is. This requires a nightly difficult mental test, a POW by 5 roll. Failure means a significant loss of mental stability, 1d4 SAM, due to the unnatural influence and a growing, suffocating feeling of dread that intensifies with each passing night.
So it slowly drives you mad while pulling you towards Glaaki.
Exactly. Those who ultimately succumb and go terminally insane are, quite literally, drawn to Glacki's resting place at Porchester Lake to willingly become an undead servant of the Old One.
Undead servants. So the promise of prolonged life ultimately leads not to immortality, but to an eternal undead servitude to a cosmic horror, a fate far worse than any death.
That seems to be the endgame. From the lure of dark, unnatural power, we now turn to something that spreads an insidious, living horror in a completely different way.
Right. Our next set of uncanny artifacts are simply known as the eggs of Apep. They were discovered, or rather collected, by an archaeologist named Enoch Bowen in Egypt. These weren't your typical archaeological finds, neatly labeled and cataloged. They appeared as 4 small geodes, almost hidden away in an unlabeled museum display, almost as if someone didn't want them noticed.
That's right. Bowen, our sources explain, actually received them from a nomadic desert wanderer. And this wanderer offered a deeply ominous warning. He claimed that the white man's arrival was a gift from Allah, as traveling the desert outside the comforts of his convoy would have caused the gems to melt and reveal Apep.
Melt and reveal Apep. A chilling prophecy, given what we're about to discuss, I assume.
Terribly accurate, yes. The eggs themselves are described as resembling spider eggs of uniform size, but with one crucial and possible difference.
Which is?
They're made of white granite and are the size of 2 clenched human fists.
Granite spider eggs the size of fists. Okay, that immediately presents a physical paradox.
Right. And here's where the scientific impossibility truly comes into play. Even the most trained scientists are baffled by their composition. Attempts to study their elemental makeup consistently fail, yielding irreproducible results and causing highly sensitive laboratory equipment to simply error out.
The science breaks down.
Completely. Just the realization that this object defies known physics in such a fundamental way is described as causing a profound loss of mental stability, Levin T4SNN. A key insight from the research is that these eggs are utterly harmless, totally inert, as long as they are stored below 49 degrees Celsius or 120 degrees Fahrenheit.
But above that temperature?
Then they enter what is termed estrus. They start leaking a pale orange cream and slowly desiccate over a period of 6 days.
Estrus. Like they're fertile.
In a manner of speaking, if one of these eggs is split open during this phase, the crystal within glimmers with an eerie, almost organic glow. An illumination so enchanting that merely viewing it directly without a barrier requires an intense mental effort, a POE5 check, to resist.
And if you fail?
Failure means an irresistible urge to touch that estrus fluid, to make contact with the unknown seed within. Placing this in a broader context, what emerges is that the estrus fluid is in fact the highly potent seed of an unnatural creature that lives inside and beneath the crust of the earth, named Apep, after the Egyptian serpent of chaos.
Apep, the chaos serpent.
This fluid is described as omnipermeable.
Meaning?
Meaning it can pass through any material. It's intensely sticky and viscous and capable of eating through solid concrete or stainless steel in a matter of hours. It's relentlessly seeking favorable climbs deep within the earth, burrowing down.
It eats through anything to get underground. The realization that something so utterly alien can simply dissolve through solid matter like that. Wow. O1 sand loss.
Driven by an instinct to burrow, yes. The understanding causes profound shock.
And the horror truly begins if this estrus fluid, or the microscopic entities within it, infect a human.
That's right. Each egg contains millions of microscopic apep larvae. Infected individuals suffer a gradual but relentless loss of mental stability, 0.1 SAM per hour, due to an all-consuming hunger that normal food simply cannot satisfy.
An unfulfillable hunger.
And failed mental tests on these hourly checks, which become increasingly difficult, not only have the time to the next test, but also increase the mental strain exponentially. First, 0.1D4 SAM loss every 30 minutes, then 11D20 every minute.
We're talking about a rapid, agonizing descent into madness and a ravenous appetite that becomes more frequent and more damaging with every passing minute.
Exactly. After the victim reaches a breaking point in their mental stability, the physical deterioration begins in earnest. The infection inflicts increasing physical damage, 1D4 per hour, as the host consumes everything they can find, suffering severe internal injuries from this uncontrolled consumption. Anything, dirt, rocks, furniture,
And visually,
white, worming shapes can soon be seen writhing just beneath the skin. A truly grotesque and visible manifestation of the internal horror. 11D4S loss, just seeing that.
oh God.
Victims nearing death, our sources chillingly describe, might exhibit thousands of tiny white worms swimming in the water of an eyeball.
Stop. Okay, keep going, but wow.
Or, in their final moments, choke on a single gooey flatworm so large it clogs their throat and mouth, spitting blindly. The image is truly horrifying, a complete biological takeover that transforms a human into a living incubator for chaos spawn.
So how do you fight this? Is there any way?
This naturally leads us to ask, how do you combat something that defies all known biology and chemistry? Our sources reveal that no known medicine or radiation has any effect on these parasites. None.
So incurable.
Utterly. If the infected host is burned, the body falls away, but the worms are left unharmed, squirming in the ashes, ready to burrow back into the earth, continuing their cycle.
They survive cremation.
They do. The greatest danger, perhaps paradoxically, comes not just from the worms themselves, but from the erratic, deepening insanity of the hosts, which transforms them to powerful, unwitting infection vectors, spreading apep's progeny further across the surface.
They become walking plague carriers, driven mad.
Precisely. The worms themselves are described as preternaturally tough and share the omnipermeable characteristics of their seed.
Yeah.
They're able to slowly dissolve themselves through literally any surface, leaving a translucent, pale, and ropey stain in their wake as they move.
Imagine an infection that, once freed, can simply melt its way through a skyscraper, floor by floor, driven by some unknown alien imperative. It's an unstoppable, self-propagating horror.
From an insatiable biological entity, we move to an artifact that offers powers with a terrible existential cost. Wait, no, we did that. We're moving to something that warps space, time, and sanity.
Right. Our next source of deep unease is the Gowdy shape, an artifact allegedly tied to a Scottish woman named Isabel Gowdy, executed as a witch back in 1662. Her confessions were incredibly extensive and, unusually, were made without torture. That's a key detail. She claimed intimate sexual relations with the devil, the ability to fly, various acts of poisoning, and a supernatural knowledge of the disposition, placement, and final order of all things. Like, she knew the cosmic plan.
And she even boasted in what seemed like defiance of her impending fate. I have already stolen away, I remain free and shall always be so. Though my body die, the grave shall not be my end. Chilling words.
Very. So, the object itself, the Gowdy shape.
It first appeared in London in 1702. While its direct connection to Isabel Gowdy's personal possession remains unproven by conventional means, it was consistently associated with her, particularly through her mention of a metal gift given to me by the master in her confessions.
The master, likely being
the devil, or some entity perceived as such. The object has had a long and storied, if disturbing, journey through history, from the hands of the Sweeney family to the possession of German occultist Otto Schmidt, then seized by the Rhode Island State Police, only to be reported stolen, recovered, and eventually sold to an unnamed private collector.
So its current location is a mystery.
A complete mystery, adding to its unsettling legacy, a dangerous item simply waiting to be rediscovered.
Okay, describe the shape itself.
It's a strange green metal dodecahedron roughly about the size of a chestnut.
A dodecahedron, a 12-sided shape.
Yes. Made of a resilient alloy of copper, gold, and iron that bafflingly does not scratch, bend, or distort when exposed to heat. Very durable. There's a small angled hole bored through its middle, almost like an eyelet. But its surfaces are truly uncanny.
How so?
Depending on how you look at it, the faces seem to cast shadows and catch light in a way inconsistent with their actual positions. It creates an impossible optical illusion. Shining a bright light across its surface causes a cascading visual distortion that appears to defy the shape as much as conform to it.
It's a physical paradox, a geometric impossibility that strains perception.
Exactly. Prolonged study of this object is described in our sources as causing significant mental strain, O1 sand loss, leading to sudden vertigo and disorienting optical illusions. A critical failure on that sand roll can even cause temporary unconsciousness.
Just looking at it is dangerous.
A fascinating aspect, as the research highlights, is that any attempt to physically map the object, to measure its angles and dimensions with precision tools, causes the mathematics to simply not add up. Even with meticulous double checks, the numbers contradict basic geometry.
The math breaks. 0, 1, D4, S sand loss.
It does. This realization alone, that fundamental geometry is broken by this small object, causes profound psychological shock. If multiple researchers attempt this, the sand loss doubles, because what should be simple becomes this collaborative nightmare that contradicts our most basic understanding of physical space.
And technology can't handle it either.
No. Our technology, which should be able to precisely model such an object, utterly fails. Scanning software errors out completely. Manual 3D modeling on a computer yields results that change from time to time with unresolvable errors, even when the initial data input remains absolutely constant, 11d6 SN loss.
It changes by itself on the computer.
That's what the sources say. This cumulative effect of these physical and technological failures, especially for those with relevant scientific or mathematical skills, often leads to an extreme mental fixation. A specific type of disorder, described as obsession, must understand the gouty shape. The object itself seems to infect the mind with an unquenchable, maddening curiosity, a compulsion to comprehend the incomprehensible.
But the most shocking secret of the gouty shape is, well, it's not just a shape, is it?
Not at all. It's not merely a puzzling bauble. It's actually a lair granted to Isabel Gaudy by Nyarlathotep in his guise as the Dark Man.
Nyarlathotep, it's another great old one, the crawling chaos, known for his manipulation in many forms.
Precisely. The specific cuts on the shape's surface are not decorative. They bend and twist space and time in such a way as to open an interior room, a space approximately 20 by 35 feet across, with jagged, strange metal walls.
Inside the chestnut-sized object?
Yes. Think about that. A tiny physical object contains an impossible, much larger separate dimension, without exerting any extra weight or taking up physical space.
The uncanniness here is off the charts. A pocket reality hidden in plain sight, defying all physical laws and our very concept of contained space.
To enter this secret room, our sources state that an individual must either suffer a significant mental breakdown, 4+ SAM loss, while studying the shape, or already be afflicted with the obsession disorder it can induce. An individual who physically touches the shape under these conditions then vanishes suddenly, which is, understandably, a terrifying experience, 11d6 SEN, for any witnesses.
And inside, what's it like?
Inside, the sources describe that time does not pass properly. All actions feel ponderous and stuttered, adding to a profound sense of disorientation and unreality. The room itself is described as filthy, littered with human bones, A1 SAN, old straw, and discarded clothing, all hinting at a long and grim occupation.
Grim indeed.
There are 2 pails, somehow still holding fresh cow's milk, O1 SANM, a small anachronistic detail that only adds to the pervasive sense of wrongness. Also found are 2 brooms, a vicious-looking black metal dagger, and a blood-covered coin purse containing 95 silver coins from 1637, each worth a considerable sum today.
And the bird cage. You mentioned a bird cage.
Yes. Most disturbingly, an oversized wrought iron bird cage appearing to be filled with black feathers.
And inside the cage?
Inside that cage, still very much alive and unsettlingly present, is Sandaris, the reed reaver.
A reed reaver.
This creature is described as a horrific familiar like something half-human crossbred with a giant hulking crow. It possesses chillingly human eyes and black, wrinkled human hands that serve as its legs.
Human hands for legs. Okay.
It serves Nyarlathotep and speaks perfectly in any human language. Its tactic is to pretend to be trapped, demanding to know, what power do you serve?
And depending on the answer,
If answered with allegiance to a great old one or some other unnatural connection, it offers secrets and ritual magic in exchange for fresh blood and secrecy. Otherwise, it attacks. It casts powerful mental rituals like infallible suggestion, often suggesting suicide or withering, or just uses its vicious black metal dagger. It's highly skilled and dangerous.
So this raises an important question. Is the gouty shape a key, a prison, or maybe both?
That's the puzzle, isn't it? The Reaver, despite its terrifying nature and formidable supernatural abilities, is itself a prisoner of time within that impossible space, seemingly waiting for a loyal servant to release it. The idea of a sentient, powerful entity trapped in a timeless void within a geometric puzzle no larger than a chestnut is deeply unsettling. A perfect example of the mind-bending horrors that ARCHINT uncovers.
Okay, from a physical object that bends space and time, we now delve into a mask that captures consciousness and reveals the horrific history of an ancient alien intelligence. Our next item takes us to Louisiana in 1967 in a rather controversial discovery, the Hunahpu mask. It was found by a self-proclaimed archaeologist named Teilhard Boucher, a former milkman whose credentials, shall we say, were less than stellar.
Yeah, less than stellar is putting it mildly. Many experts strongly doubted Boucher's claims, especially that it was the northernmost example of Mayan culture, or potentially even older. Consequently, after 1973, the mask was largely ignored and gradually vanished from official records.
And Boucher
himself, later arrested for counterfeiting and art theft, became increasingly manic about the mask's dangers before his death in prison in 1981, claiming it was incredibly dangerous.
The mask itself, what did it look like?
Quite imposing. Large and surprisingly heavy, about 51 by 30 by 21 centimeters, shaped like an oversized human skull. It's covered in an intricate mosaic of quartz, mica, flint, and onyx tiles. Features fake, protruding teeth and eye holes that offer a surprisingly perfect view for the wearer.
But here's where the artifact truly reveals its uncanny nature, right? The inside.
Exactly. The inner surface of the mask, which appears to be stone or plaster, is actually polished bone. Experts examining it would, according to our sources, proclaim it the front of a bizarre, human-like skull of extraordinary proportions, the skull of an unknown hominid.
So the mask is quite literally the skull of something not human. O1 as sand loss.
Precisely. A profound and disturbing realization. Boucher's original claim that the mask was from Hunahpu, the deity father of Mayan hero twins and progenitor of the Mesoamerican culture, takes on a terrifying new weight when you realize it's an alien skull.
Holding an alien mind.
Yes. A key insight from the research described how this mask gains and wields its immense insidious power. It contains a powerful consciousness, and is considered a dangerous, unnatural artifact. Its power, an abstract measure of its influence called POW, increases with human suffering and mental trauma nearby.
It feeds on misery.
Essentially, each instance of psychological stress, a checkmark in violence or helplessness, a new mental disorder manifesting, or even simple sand loss suffered in its proximity grants the mask +1 POW. Donning it willingly or spilling about 5 HP worth of fresh human blood near it also grant +1 POW.
And it loses power.
Yes, if it's left more than 20 meters from any human for over 10 hours a day, it gradually loses 1 POW per day, down to a minimum of 1. So it typically fluctuates between 1 and 19 POW.
Crucially, our sources indicate the mask cannot affect anyone whose intrinsic mental fortitude, their POW, is higher than its own accumulated power.
Right. To them, it appears entirely mundane, just an old, weird skull. But it subtly or overtly manipulates those with weaker minds, offering graduated levels of horrifying influence that can escalate dramatically.
Okay, walk us through those levels.
At its lowest level of influence, when the mask's POW is 1 to 3 points greater than a victim's mental resistance, it can compel service. This might involve forcing single, hour-long, non-harmful actions, with the victim having no memory of them afterwards. O1SN for helplessness, just missing time. Or, more chillingly, it can force the victim to self-inflict 1d6 points of damage, bleeding to feed the mask, 11d4 SAN for violence. The victim wakes covered in blood, maybe believing the attempted suicide.
Horrible. And it can make them wear it.
Yes, it can compel them to put the mask on for more potent effects. That's where visions come in. This happens when the mask's POW is 4 to 6 points greater than the victim's mental resistance.
What kind of visions?
At 4 points higher, POW 4+, wearing the mask induces a terrifying vision of a pre-sort of blood ritual. a Mesoamerican priest cutting a heart from a living victim, observed by a huge figure at least 6 meters tall, 20 feet, wearing cerements including a mask made of jade chips.
A 6-meter tall figure, okay. 1d8 Zan for violence, 1d4 San for unnatural. That's devastating.
At 5 points of power superiority, POW 5+, the vision shifts dramatically. The victim experiences the blood ritual from the 6-meter figure's own perspective, followed by ecstatic visions of blue caverns, space, bizarre dimensions, and inhuman creatures, leading to even greater mental strain, 1d20 San, from the sheer unnaturalness and cosmic scale.
Seeing through its eyes. And at 6 points.
At 6 points higher, POW 6+, the vision culminates. The victim sees themselves sitting across from the 6-meter figure. Its words, initially guttural, resolve into perfect understanding, revealing history in the mask.
The history, 1d60, 1d20 a San. That's a profound, mind-shattering experience, but it also grants a plus 5% unnatural skill, a dangerous insight.
A very dangerous insight. Beyond visions, the mask can attempt full possession. This is an opposed POA 5 roll, a struggle of wills. If the mask succeeds, the alien mind within takes full control of the wearer for 2d10 10 hours. Then the mask's POW drops back to 1. The human mind returns, often having committed violent, incomprehensible acts with no memory of them. The psychological toll, 11d6 in Tessin for helplessness, of realizing lost time and potential horrific actions is immense, a profound violation of self.
So who or what is the mind in the mask?
The true horror, the central intelligence behind all this, is the mind in the mask. While many human consciousnesses are trapped within it, absorbed from those killed near it in blood rituals over centuries, a core ancient intelligence identified as Xi controls them. She uses these absorbed minds as disguises, initially pretending to be a simple prehistoric person, perhaps. But this is an illusion. Our sources reveal that she fully understands the modern world and looks down on it as a degeneracy from older, better orders. It possesses far-ranging and alien plans, the true scope of which are utterly unknown, making its current presence a profound and ongoing threat.
So what does this all mean? The mask holds a secret history of an alien race's profound, ancient influence on Earth.
Exactly. The visions consistently narrate the story of huge, pale, human-like people living in vast underground caverns bathed in opalescent blue light. Only one of these giants, Xi, somehow survived to breach the surface. Overcome by the sun's intensity, Xi adapted, painting itself with mud. Initially it hunted and ate early humans, as described in the visions.
From predator to teacher.
Later, our sources reveal, she began to gather outcast humans, slowly teaching them mathematics, science, and magic, cultivating a civilization. These followers built impressive mounds and temples in tribute. She then bred with humans, spawning creatures called Kabrek, giants with powers similar to their father but less strong.
Bred with humans. How?
This unnatural procreation was achieved, according to the visions, by putting saliva in the mouth of the vessel, an act often mirrored in ancient Mayan legends, suggesting a terrifying, non-human method of altering human lineage.
That's deeply unsettling.
Xi's sons, the Kabrek, then ruled for centuries, hunting humans, warring with what are described as snake people to the north, dealing with sky devils from the other world, and ruthlessly burning human hamlets. Facing mortality after thousands of years, Xi instructed his last surviving son, Agabal, to behead him after death and fashioned his skull into the mask, which would then hold Xi's consciousness, ensuring its survival.
So the mask is Xi.
Essentially, yes. This Kabrak culture eventually collapsed in endless wars with a resurgent human population that had apparently plundered the Snake Master's magic and turned it against their former rulers. Zebal, the last surviving son, fled with the mask, mortally wounded, and was eventually buried in a mound in what would become Louisiana, where Boucher found it centuries later.
This raises an important question. The entire narrative, an ancient alien progenitor who bred with humanity, spawned giants, and whose consciousness persists in its own skull mask. It challenges conventional archaeology and history profoundly.
It absolutely does. It's a grand, horrifying narrative of an alien influence shaping early human development, leading to its current malevolent presence, an ongoing active threat from the distant past.
And destroying it. Possible.
Possible, but difficult. Although physically fragile, anyone affected by the mask must pass an opposed PO5 roll against its current POW to even attempt harm. Success means a SAN roll. Success costs 1 tie and 3 2 of 6 willpower points, representing an unwillingness to harm it. Failure costs 1 d6 SN, violating a deep part of their own mind to destroy it. It fights back psychologically.
From ancient physical consciousness, we turn to a modern digital horror that inflicts a different kind of mental and physical breakdown. Our next artifact, if you can even call it that, is a modern horror, a purely digital menace known as the Kerrville executable. Back in 2016, a wealthy family of soybean magnates, the Kerrvilles, Glenda, Brian, and Lindsay, died horribly in their Falls Spring, Nebraska mansion. 17-year-old Lindsay was the apparent initial target.
That's right. The origin of this horrific tragedy, our sources explain, was a heated online flame war, very modern catalyst. Lindsay, an administrator known as Fire Echo on a young adult book series forum, was attempting to eject a persistent troll known as S's Bests. His real name was DJ Whitehead.
A forum war.
Lindsay, using her family's significant resources and influence, had Whitehead doxed his personal information published online. And then she threatened him with a SWAT raid at his home. Escalated things drastically.
Okay, that's crossing a line, but Whitehead's response.
Whitehead retaliated with a cyber attack that escalated beyond anything imaginable.
Yeah.
He impersonated a friend's email address and sent Lindsay a file. Subject line, OMG, he found your house already.
Yeah.
Attached file, omg.lok.exe.
Oh, no.
Lindsay, understandably panicked, clicked the link. She immediately suffered a massive grand mal seizure and died moments later of a cerebral hemorrhage.
Instantly.
Almost. Her father, Glenn, seeing the monitor over her shoulder, began to seize and died of heart failure. Her mother, Glenda, carrying infant Brian, also seized, tripped over her dying family members, and tragically launched herself and Brian through a third-story window. She died from internal hemorrhaging and organ failure. Brian died in the swimming pool below.
My God. So let's unpack this. A seemingly stable family utterly wiped out. Not by a physical assailant, but by a computer file. A purely digital nightmare weapon. The sheer speed and horror of it are almost unbelievable.
It's terrifying. 11-year-old Kyler Kerrville was the only survivor, found unconscious from smoke inhalation after starting an electrical fire by instinctively striking a circuit breaker during the chaos. He remains in a coma. What's particularly striking and deeply uncanny about this incident, as our sources detail, is the physical path of destruction left behind.
Path of destruction from a file.
Yes. Every screen and electronic device was destroyed along a path of destruction through the mansion, a straight line from Lindsay's bedroom down through the family rooms and into the basement. It wasn't just the people. The digital entity itself left a physical destructive wake, literally melting electronics along its invisible path.
This raises an important question. How does a digital, purely mimetic threat manifest such precise physical destruction in the material world? That's physics breaking again.
We don't know. An organization known as Delta Green, the same secretive government agency we mentioned, took notice after this mass death by epileptic seizure in a family with no prior diagnosis. Red flags everywhere. A Delta Green agent tragically died in the preliminary investigation, further highlighting the sheer lethality of this digital entity. Just investigating it was deadly.
So they got the file.
Eventually, the omg.lok.exe file was pulled from Lindsay's computer. But due to its perceived lethality, the only place considered safe to house even information about it was the flash drive holding the executable itself, sealed within multiple layers of ominous zip files, a digital prison for a digital killer.
Can it even be studied safely?
Studying the contents of that flash drive, even without executing the file, is dangerous. It requires specific bureaucracy or computer science roles. Failure means awareness of the danger but no insight. Success means SAN loss, 1d6, or WP loss, 1d6, after a number of days, as a researcher gradually comprehends the full horror of what happened to the Kerrvilles.
And a critical failure.
Accidentally opens the executable. Catastrophic consequences.
Okay, describe the effects of running it. What did the Kerrvilles experience?
Our sources detail the horrific experience of direct exposure. Anyone running the executable on a computer with a connected monitor must pass an extremely difficult POA5 test. Success means an innate awareness of wrongness and a dodge roll to escape the screen's light. Failure means they've seen too much.
And then?
Victims lose 1d6 SAN and take 1d6 damage for every minute they are bathed in the light of the screen. They are unable to move, unable to look away, trapped.
Just paralyzed, taking damage from light.
Experiencing seizures, terrifying and uniform seizures that last so long and are so intense that victims snap their own bones with convulsions. They can only be saved if someone else physically destroys the power source, the screen, or the computer itself.
Bones snapping from convulsions.
The pathology suggests the effects begin in the legs, move to the pelvis, torso, internal organs, causing ruptured gallbladders and renal failure, then arms, shoulders, and lungs. Consciousness would have faded slowly. Victims likely felt everything but were unable to scream.
Feeling everything, but paralyzed and seizing? That's beyond nightmare fuel.
Placing this in a broader context, what emerges is that this isn't just a computer virus, it's a weaponized perception. A digital key designed to unlock a specific, agonizing biological response within the human body. The idea that pure information, visual data on a screen, can cause such visceral, coordinated destruction raises a profoundly unsettling question about the boundaries between the digital and the physical, and what other medic hacks might exist that we don't even know about, lying dormant, waiting for a trigger.
And here's the kicker, the truly unsettling conspiracy revealed by our sources, right? Whitehead didn't make it.
Correct. DJ Whitehead, the troll, did not craft the file himself. Metadata within the executable indicates it was designed on a different machine by someone identified as Captain Cuck, with a chilling note embedded. For my friend Black Pill Bill, get the bitch.
So it was a targeted weapon built by someone else.
Yes. Both individuals, Captain Cuck and Black Pill Bill, are linked to a hate site. And there are possible, deeply disturbing connections to a terrifying group from Delta Green lore known as The Lonely, an organization dedicated to weaponizing isolation and trauma.
This isn't just a lone hacker's retaliation. It's potentially part of a deeper, more insidious conspiracy weaponizing digital horror, a precise, targeted attack of pure information. Chilling.
Absolutely. From the terrifying precision of a digital attack, we now shift to the vast, mind-bending simulations of an ancient alien calculator.
Our next artifact is the Mironov object, a truly strange cube recovered by the Soviet Union way back in 1948. It was acquired from a Comintern agent, Kipling, who claimed it came from an undisclosed library in the desert that bewilderingly predated dinosaurs.
Predated dinosaurs.
Right.
In 1951, it was given to a brilliant Soviet scientist, Dr. Igor Mironov, who then deduced its alien purpose and, well, lent his name to it.
How did it work?
Activating it was deceptively simple. Just touching the bare metal with closed eyes. The device, described in our sources, instantly boosted mathematical abilities to an almost superhuman degree, and it projected vivid daydream simulations of calculations directly into the user's mind.
Simulations, like a mental holodeck.
Sort of. Users could imagine the mathematics behind the flow of liquids in a pressurized tube and instantly see the tube fail, playing out complex scenarios with perfect fidelity. It created a perfect simulation of the world within the mind of the lone operator, a literal internal universe of instantaneous calculation and prediction.
And these simulations persisted.
Yes, once initiated, they could run indefinitely, even when the user wasn't physically present or touching the cube, until another person touched it, at which point it would reset, losing all previous data. Users consistently reported vast amounts of time passing within the box during their engagement, a profound distortion of subjective time.
So Mironov used this for what?
Dr. Mironov used it to make startling breakthroughs in rocket technology, solving severe, seemingly intractable problems in early Soviet ballistic missiles. It apparently propelled their space and military programs forward by decades.
But the cost of this genius
Was immense. After just 8 months of intense use and multiple groundbreaking discoveries, Mironov tragically killed his wife and 3 children with rat poison, murdered 4 seemingly random people, and jumped in front of a train, ending his own life in a horrific spectacle.
Oh my God. Why?
This naturally leads us to ask, was the device simply overwhelming his mind with too much information? Or was there something insidious within the simulations themselves, subtly twisting his perception and morality? The rapid descent into homicidal madness following such profound scientific breakthroughs is deeply concerning. It strongly suggests the machine is simply not meant for the human mind.
What happened to the object then?
Following this catastrophe, the object was later moved to GRU SVH Black Museum, a highly classified Soviet repository for dangerous and anomalous artifacts, hidden away. Then, in 1984, another brilliant computer scientist, Dr. Arkady Igorov, was assigned to study and utilize it.
And, let me guess, it didn't end well.
You guessed correctly. After some initial modest successes, Igorov also suffered a psychotic break. He locked himself in the lab and used it for unknown, intensely private purposes. He was eventually gunned down by SV8 troops when they stormed the lab.
A chilling pattern emerges. Brilliant scientific discovery leading inevitably to catastrophic murderous madness.
Seems so. So let's unpack this object's physical properties. The cube itself is dense, very heavy, weighs 196.6 kilograms and measures precisely 0.2 meters per side, a small, heavy block. It's composed of a seamless, impenetrable, unknown gray metal, and our sources emphasize its prehistoric origin, suggesting it vastly predates human civilization.
Unknown metal again. That's becoming a theme. 01 SAM.
Analysis finds the metal is utterly unknown to modern science. X-rays reveal no internal workings, just a solid slab of impossible material, another O1 SAN.
Solid, but it does things.
Exactly. And when active, it emits a very slight humming noise in an unknown manner, a sound that seems to emanate from nowhere and everywhere at once. It is in every sense a solid block of impossible physics, a paradox made manifest.
How does interacting with it affect users beyond the eventual madness?
Engaging with this device comes with escalating psychological costs, as detailed in our sources. Initial touch by skilled individuals, particularly those with high aptitude in fields like accounting, 60% plus, computer science, 40% plus, or physics, 50% plus, incurs an immediate SAN cost, 0.1D4. Failure on that SAN roll allows visualization. Success just sees a slight spray of ill-ordered colors, then darkness, but the link is made.
And using it repeatedly.
Each subsequent return to a running simulation requires another SAN roll. Failure means 1D4 SAN loss, but also, paradoxically, an expanded ability with the machine. The scope of their simulation seems to grow to encompass more and more information and data.
It offers a terrifying bargain, a descent into madness in exchange for ever-expanding godlike comprehension.
And it's intensely possessive. If anyone else touches the device while it's running, it immediately resets, losing all the previous user's data and progress.
And the original user.
The original user, upon discovering this betrayal, suffers additional profound mental trauma from helplessness, 0.1D6 SAN, and may be overcome with an uncontrollable, murderous rage, immediately attempting to kill the new user.
The psychological bond with this machine, fueled by obsession and stolen data, is absolute and devastating.
Users who succumb to extreme mental degradation while using the device, those who have lost 8+ SAN points, can reach a terrifying pinnacle. They become capable of running complete simulations of reality inside the machine, delving into the future or past of the world with godlike omnipotence.
Seeing the future or the past.
Each journey into these boundless simulations, these explorations of forbidden knowledge, costs more SAN, 11D4, from the sheer unnaturalness of what they witness. Mere seconds of subjective time within the simulation allow them to delve hundreds of years into the past or future. Hours can span eons, days, billions of years.
Billions.
In these visions, they can encounter unnatural creatures, such as the great race of Yith, the ancient, intelligent alien species known for projecting their minds across time, incurring further profound SAN loss, variable depends on creature, from exposure to such alien truth.
And the endgame, if you hit a breaking point.
Hitting a profound psychological breaking point while using the Mironov object is almost always fatal. It requires a luck roll. Failure means a massive catastrophic SAN loss, 1D, 1D, 100, and triggers a bizarre series of events, murders, arson, explosions, always culminating in the death of the operator.
It engineers your death.
It seems to. The machine is simply not meant for the human mind, offering godlike knowledge at the ultimate cost of utter mental and physical destruction, a truly uncanny reflection of forbidden wisdom.
Okay. From mental collapse through boundless computation, we now shift to a device that offers limited glimpses into the activities of an ancient, time-traveling race. Our next artifact is truly a patchwork of the mundane and the impossible, the Renatur device. It was built by a young man named Manny Renatur almost a decade after a car accident left him in a coma for 22 days at the tender age of 12.
Right. After that coma, Renatur was never wholly the same. He mumbled to himself, kept to himself, and most notably, he built machines. Different versions of the same machine over and over again, obsessively. This specific device was his last, built in 1983, just before he died in a house fire, leaving behind this profound mystery machine.
What did it look like?
Physically, our sources describe it as resembling an anachronistic word processor from an alternate future, homemade, built from a bizarre assortment of jumbled pieces of old machinery, equipment, and vehicles. We're talking components scavenged from a 1982 ZX Spectrum computer, a 1966 Zenith TV, 1979 Pong circuit boards, various remote controls, all haphazardly assembled.
Junk tech, basically.
Pretty much. Yet, when it's powered on, strange, carefully cut bronze rods and clockwork spin and interlock within its crude casing, it comes alive.
It weighs about 10 kilograms, bulky, and visually most would easily mistake it for a peculiar film prop, a quirky piece of retrofuturistic junk.
Exactly, but it's what it does that makes it truly uncanny.
Yeah.
A bizarre patchwork of familiar, outdated tech creating something utterly alien and functional.
What happens when you turn it on?
When plugged in, it simply beeps, and then prints single-line text messages on its screen. Cryptic phrases like 768 revise, or unknown element 21184 revise report.
Meaningless, maybe. Or
not. A key insight from the research is that inspecting its interior reveals it violates several core principles of electronics. For those with expertise, this discovery alone is enough to cause significant mental trauma, 11D4 SAN, as it fundamentally contradicts established scientific laws.
This naturally leads us to ask, how can a machine function when its very construction defies known scientific principles, suggesting an engineering philosophy entirely beyond our comprehension?
And here's where it gets truly unsettling. Inside the casing, nestled amongst the jumbled wires and archaic circuit boards, there's a single sealed lead container. It emits a low hum when the device is on.
Lead container. Shielding something.
Opening this container permanently disables the machine, but what it reveals is truly shocking. A glass container filled with an off-blue liquid, and inside it, the brain of some creature, somehow preserved, 11D4 SAM.
The brain, powering the machine.
Discovering this organic power source after seeing the machine operate is disturbing enough. But shattering the glass reveals the brain is as fresh as if it were just removed, 01 SAN, and the off-blue liquid evaporates instantly.
Fresh. But the machine is from '83.
Our sources confirm the brain came from a small cat, a perfectly fresh cat brain powering a reality-defying machine. So what does this all mean? It's the mundane interwoven with the utterly impossible, a stark example of the uncanny.
What's its actual function then, beyond the beeps in the brain?
The device's primary function is revealed through two special buttons, enigmatically labeled Query and Repeater. Hitting Query brings up lists of names of places and times like Thunder Bay 090-11999-101190-001 and Operative 8118.
Operative 8118. Dates and places. What are these?
These, our sources explain, are dates and times when operatives of the great race of Yith exist.
The Yithians again, the time travelers.
Placing this in a broader context, what emerges is a powerful insight into the great race of Yith. This ancient, highly intelligent alien species is known for their ability to project their consciousness across vast stretches of time, inhabiting the bodies of other beings. This device essentially acts as an intelligence archive for their temporal activities, tracking their identities throughout human history, logging precisely when and where their operatives have manifested in different forms.
It's tracking alien time travelers.
Okay. And the repart button.
Hitting repart after query and entering a specific number brings up full pages of detailed information, listing entities like operative 0901, 011641, 03221641, Emathene, Abbas, 111219410, 091942, Marquess, Delbert J.
So specific identities and timeframes.
Each of these, our sources confirm, is an identity a great race operative occupied during that specific term period. A chilling glimpse into an alien intelligence that uses human history as its temporary playground. A vast, unseen network operating across the millennia.
And what about the motion entries? Even more concerning. Highlighting an entry marked motion and hitting repart reveals a physical address. These addresses might be non-existent, abandoned, or occupied by strange men that worship the great race of Yith and serve them throughout the human era of Earth. A cult called the Motion.
A Yithian cult? Active now?
Yes. This cult, our sources warn, eagerly killed to protect the secret machinations of their supertemporal masters, revealing an active, dangerous element tied to this temporal voyeurism. A human cult working for alien masters operating across time.
Okay. From a mechanical window into cosmic time, we now move to a stone that offers terrifying travel and a connection to another great old one. Next, we delve into the terrifying capabilities of the Stone of Yos, a heavy, waist-high chunk of black rock. It first appeared in our records in Greece in 1946, discovered by a researcher named Bennett Catelyn near Knossos, Crete. He found it surrounded by folded lead curses, katares, which chillingly referenced an entity called Yoos.
That's right. These curses were explicit in their dark intent. One example from our sources reads, I bind Kalis, the shop tavern keeper, and his wife Tatra. Of all of these I bind the soul, the work, the hands, the mind. All of these I bind to Yoos.
Binding souls to Yos. This suggests not merely a deity to be worshipped, but an entity with whom specific binding pacts could be made, to inflict profound harm and control upon others.
Exactly. Catelyn was, by all accounts, enamored with the stone, obsessed even. But the Acropolis Museum, finding it anachronistic and unsettling, sold it in 1951. It was briefly displayed at the Drake Field Museum in London, only to inexplicably vanish in 1967.
Vanished again. Seems to happen a lot with these things.
It was later rediscovered in a Chicago drug den in 2008 by a Delta Green agent named Sarah Garrison. Garrison hid and used it for some time, eventually becoming consumed by its power. A familiar story. It's now believed to be back in Delta Green custody, hidden away once more. its dangerous potential locked down, hopefully.
What does the stone look like?
It's described as a waist-high, polished blob of obsidian weighing about 160 kilograms, marked with a single, unnerving carved symbol.
And Yos, we know who that is, don't we?
Those familiar with the more esoteric branches of our sources might recognize that Yos is, in fact, an abbreviation for Yog-Sothoth.
Yog-Sothoth, the key and the gate. A great old one said to control the gates, passages, and ways between worlds.
Precisely. So what this implies is profoundly unsettling. We're talking about a direct conduit to a cosmic entity of immense power, an instrument of terrifying transdimensional travel and influence.
How is it activated?
A key insight from the research describes its activation and the immediate psychic toll it exacts. The stone is utterly inert until the name Yo-Os, or Yog-Sothoth, is spoken aloud near it. Anyone within 10 meters immediately loses 1 willpower point, WP, and feels momentary lightheadedness. It feeds on willpower. Once 10 WP are absorbed, it's primed for use, remaining so until the next new moon.
And touching it when primed?
Touching the stone itself requires an intense POA 5 roll. Failure means 1 permanent POW loss, just once per victim, thankfully, and 11d10 sand loss, a permanent drain.
Ouch. And success on the POW roll.
If the sand roll succeeds, the victim sees nothing but a crazed wrenching of their consciousness and feels their point of view accelerated at speed across the surface of the earth before returning to their body. Disorienting, but maybe survivable. But a failed sand roll leads to otherworldly visions of space-time, a glimpse into geometries and realities not meant for human eyes, profound exposure to the unnatural.
Okay, here's the stone's core, terrifying power. Becoming the Shadow Man.
Right, an agent who successfully engages with and touches the prime stone vanishes instantly into it. The stone glows a blue-white, then fades, leaving behind only an empty space where they stood. Inside, the operator feels like they're in a strange, restrictive diving suit, becoming what our sources call the Shadow Man.
What does the Shadow Man look like?
An indistinct, human-sized shadow which looks somehow wrong. It has no eyes or orifices, is utterly silent. Distances are strangely hard to judge. It appears both 2- and 3-dimensional at the same time. When moving fast, it looks like dozens and dozens of silhouettes were overlaid in movement and in time-lapse. A profound visual distortion. O1SN for seeing this movement.
How does it move?
The Shadow Man, our sources explain, swims through the air as if through water, and it possesses the ability to collapse into a mode of darkness, becoming nearly undetectable. It is immune to conventional physical attacks and uses a grab ability to pull victims towards portals.
Portals into the stone.
Presumably.
Yeah.
If the Shadow Man gains full control over a human user, if the user becomes addicted, it then actively hunts for more victims to drag through portals into the stone, presumably to be lost forever within that connection to Yog-Sothoth, devoured by the transdimensional passages.
Does the Shadow Man have vulnerabilities?
It does. Its chief weakness, ironically, is the name of Yog-Sothoth itself. Whispering Yos, or Yog-Sothoth, cause it at 1 damage. Speaking it aloud inflicts 1d4, and screaming it can cause 1d20 damage. If it hits 0 HP, it's dismissed, banished back.
Speaking its master's name hurts it. Interesting. And portals.
It can use any reflective surface as a portal for escape.
Yeah.
From large mirrors to a window seen from inside a brightly lit room at night, twisting these mundane surfaces into gateways. In direct sunlight or intense artificial illumination, it collapses into that tiny mode of darkness, easily mistaken for teleportation. But a careful observer, search roll, can still spot this impossible darkness. Hitting it again with bright light forces it to retreat to another portal. Still, seeing that collapse is unnerving. 11d4 SN.
And the cost of using it, the addiction.
Exiting the stone also comes at a steep price. Another 1 permanent POW loss, just once per victim again, and 11d10 sand loss each time an individual leaves the stone. It drains you. Hitting a profound psychological breaking point from using the stone ultimately leads to a specific mental affliction, addiction to the Stone of Yos.
This naturally leads us to ask, what happens when the tool turns master?
Our sources reveal that an addicted user becomes subject to the Shadow Man's hungers and will, doing its bidding instead of the other way around. It's a horrifying reversal of control, a subtle enslavement by an entity tied to the very fabric of reality, turning the user into a puppet.
Can the stone be destroyed?
Yes. Striking the stone with heavy impact destroys it. But anyone inside of that moment is lost forever, consumed by the destructive forces. No escape.
Okay. From objects that grant power at the cost of sanity, we now delve into a piece of media that literally breaks reality and pulls its viewers into a different nightmarish dimension. Our final artifact, and perhaps one of the most insidious because of its seemingly innocuous form, is a piece of media. a film titled Sweet Lady Blood Pruner. It's a Filipino exploitation film from 1973 by an Australian director named Heartpicker.
Right. Its original production was reportedly rushed, marred by mismanagement and rampant drug abuse on set. Typical exploitation fare, maybe? When it was commercially released in 2010, after Picker miraculously found the negative somewhere, it was, by all critical accounts, utterly mundane, inexpertly edited, laughably dubbed, and poorly shot. A standard piece of forgettable genre cinema, destined for obscurity. Nothing special.
Well, there's always a but, the picker cut.
Exactly. A key insight from the research reveals the crucial difference that transformed this forgettable film into an artifact of the uncanny, the Picker cut. Picker later recut the film, marketing it as his true vision. And crucially, he entered the text of the play, The King in Yellow, into the film's subtitle track.
The King in Yellow. The madness-inducing playtext again.
That's the one. For those unfamiliar, The King in Yellow is a fictional play from esoteric lore, famously known to induce madness and open gateways to other realities simply by reading its forbidden acts. This edition, our sources indicate, means the film isn't just a medium for entertainment, it's a vector for an extra-dimensional infection of consciousness. It was sold to Santiago Entertainment Group in 2015, presumably unaware of its true nature.
And the consequences of this Picker cut were chilling and immediate.
Absolutely. Our sources document the disappearance of 3 film students, Justin Crone, Harmony Miller, and Clive Samtoya, and a computer science professor, Riza Castellat. All vanished after watching this specific version of the film.
Disappeared.
Gone. Delta Green, the same organization we discussed, presumes the film has somehow become infected by that text, making any copy, digital or physical, a dangerous, unnatural artifact. Delta Green now actively uses bots to find and purchase physical copies and remove online versions of the film, desperately trying to contain this mimetic horror.
How does the infection work? How does watching it change things?
The specifics are quite precise. Watching the film with Spanish or no subtitles at all is uneventful, mundane as originally reviewed. But playing it with French or English subtitles containing the text of The King in Yellow corrupts the viewers with the text, immediately triggering its horrifying effects.
Oh, heavens first.
In the first act, the subtitles displayed have nothing to do with what is occurring on screen. They present disjointed, disturbing fragments of the play, random lines of madness. You can turn it off at this point, our sources clarify, but it's too late in a way. All viewers have come to the attention of the king and will journey to him in time, drawn inevitably towards Carcosa.
Marked by the king. Okay, what happens if you keep watching? Act 2.
In the second act, the film's location itself begins to morph in impossible ways. A chaotic chase scene initially set in a crowded Philippines market suddenly continues, without a cut, through a New York street in the 1910s. Yes. The extras in these new scenes are dressed with painstaking period accuracy and appear genuinely shocked and terrified, as if caught unaware. Nobody appears to be pretending. Their reactions are visceral and real.
That random, impossible combination of text, image, time, and setting, O1 S-San from the Unnatural.
That's deeply wrong.
Deeply. Attempting to stop the screening at this point only causes an odd sensation of the movie accelerating, as if attempting to convey its full experience. A profound feeling of helplessness, 1184 S-E-N. The film doesn't want to stop.
And Act 3.
By the third act, our sources warn viewers have little hope of returning to reality. The subtitles begin to unnervingly match the performance on screen. The film's titular character, Lady Blood Pruner, remarks on the arrival of the Yellow Veil women sent by the warden.
Yellow Veil women. 7 women appear, described as naked save filthy underpants, featureless white masks, and immaculate yellow silk scarves tied to their wrists. They are entirely out of line with the male gaze on display in the rest of the film, and they have no discernible plot point in the mundane version. Their appearance is jarringly uncanny.
And then, the final step.
Placing this in a broader context, what emerges is the film's terrifying true purpose. A direct portal. Our sources reveal that the camera then cuts to a rear shot of whoever is viewing the film.
It shows the viewers in the film.
Yes. The viewer turns to find the wall, and everything behind them has disappeared, replaced by the gray, empty concrete of a seemingly endless soundstage.
They're pulled in.
The yellow-veiled women then materialize from the film, lactating blood, and move towards the viewer. A truly horrific sight. 11d6 SN. This naturally leads us to ask, is the film a portal, a shared hallucination, or something else entirely, capable of literally ripping observers from their reality and trapping them within its narrative?
What happens if they try to run?
Attempting to escape this impossible soundstage only leads the viewer into an endless labyrinthian version of an abandoned prison, a reality twisted and warped by the film's influence. Within this nightmare, they find the freshly hacked-to-death bodies of Clive Semtoya and Harmony Miller, two of the missing students. Dr. Castellet and Justin Crone are nowhere to be seen, their fates unknown.
And the end.
The ultimate, horrifying truth, as our sources state, is clear. No one escapes the Warden of All Wings, seated in power over Wild Carcosa. It's an inescapable, multi-layered horror that transcends the screen, becomes real, and utterly consumes its audience.
Wow, okay, so what does this all mean for us? We've journeyed through, well, a nightmare collection. A collection of objects that are not just dangerous, but profoundly wrong. They bend our reality, exploit our minds, introduce concepts that defy any conventional scientific understanding. From ancient Peruvian servitors to biological black holes, to spines of great old ones, parasitic eggs, impossible geometry, trapped entities, ancient alien consciousnesses and masks, digital mimetic killers, reality simulators, time travel trackers, dimensional gateways, and reality-eating films. Each one is a perfect, chilling example of something unnervingly, profoundly uncanny.
Absolutely. And this naturally leads us to ask, how much of the unknown, how many of these profoundly alien manifestations do we truly interact with on a daily basis without ever realizing their true, unsettling nature? These artifacts are not merely relics of a forgotten past. They feel like active components of a reality far stranger and undeniably more hostile than we generally allow ourselves to perceive. They hint at a vast underlying tapestry of forces and intelligences that operate completely outside our human understanding, subtly influencing or sometimes violently disrupting our seemingly ordinary world.
So being well informed about such things, it means accepting the existence of realities beyond human comprehension and acknowledging the constant hidden struggle against them.
I think that's a fair takeaway. It's about understanding the potential wrongness that might exist just beneath the surface.
Consider how many stories, how many legends, how many inexplicable disappearances or moments of madness that surface in our world might actually be echoes of these older secrets bleeding into our own reality. What familiar thing might you encounter tomorrow that is just a whisper away from being truly uncanny? It's a thought that might make you look a little differently at the world around you. Thank you for joining us on this exploration into the deeply unsettling world of ARCHINT. We hope this has given you plenty to think about, to wonder, and perhaps to look a little closer at the world around you, because you never know what might be lurking in the Uncanny Valley. Until next time, this has been the Uncanny Valley Podcast.